Hello everyone, I'm Neve from the marketing team here at Populo and welcome to our session on embracing strategy, how data led Cytiva to revise our comms approach. If you've got any questions, we invite you to use the Q&A box in the dashboard, and anything that we don't get answered, we'll do our best to come back to you as soon as possible. Now, I'm privileged to introduce our speaker, Dodi Axelson. Dodi is Head of Communications at leading life sciences company Cytiva. Based in Stockholm, Dodi has over 20 years corporate communications experience. She's a corporate leader, a moderator, podcaster, and a consummate storyteller. So I promise you're in for a great presentation. And on that note, I'd like to introduce you to Dodi.
Thank you, Neem. It's great to be here at Populo, and I always find it strange to hear that I have more than 20 years experience because I've, barely seen the other side of 25. Anyway, let me begin, please, by telling you all a little bit about Cytiva. So we do what we are called. So our name Cytiva comes from, the first part comes from cyto, which in Greek means cell. And the last part comes from the Latin eva, which means doing or capable of. So what we help our customers do is go from an idea to delivery of new therapeutics, of established therapeutics, all in the interest of bringing life-changing therapies to patients. So we became a new company in the year 2020. And then just now, on the 1st of May, 2023, we became yet another new Cytiva because we joined together with a sister company, which used to be known as Paul Life Sciences, but now they are part of Cytiva. So we are constantly growing and changing, but maintaining our purpose, which is to help our customers advance and accelerate therapeutics. Since we did merge with Paul Life Sciences, we have this enormous scale around the world. We are located, or we have a base in more than 40 countries, 16,000 people in all. And we like to say that we are a company without a headquarters. And this just means we have 4 key hubs. So from Amersham in the United Kingdom, from Uppsala, Sweden, where I am based, from Shanghai, China, or from Marlborough, Massachusetts, you're going to find our experts, you're going to find our scientists, you're going to find our customers. And we just work out of those 4 main hubs. We have 36 manufacturing sites around the world, and that helps us deliver to customers wherever they are. And then what you see on the right side there, those are very customer-specific advantages about what we bring to our customers. The Flex Factory is something that just helps a pharma company or a scientist just bring their therapy from the very beginning of a process to delivery to a patient. And customers like us, we have 96% customer satisfaction in our services business. So far, so good. But what that means is internally, we have to keep our people motivated. And our CEO likes to say there's no such thing as a happy customer without a happy employee. So inside the company, we have to be very clear about what is important. And as we all know, there's a lot to do. There's nobody who can say that we're bored. Nobody is twiddling thumbs. It's been a busy 3 years for the whole world. Similarly for Cytiva in providing the tools and equipment and services needed to bring vaccines for COVID to market, for example. So during our year of transition, when we merged with our sister company, our CEO set out these priorities for the organization. Look, we've got to get through this transition. That is top of mind. And we have to have a healthy business. So be efficient, be productive. Keep that cost control in mind all the time. Those are the top 2 priorities. And then at the foundation of those priorities, you've got people and talent, customer, and sustainability. All these things have to work in concert so that we can accomplish our mission. We also have to attach those imperatives. So if an imperative is the kind of mood or behavior or what's important, how do you know what's important? Then you also have to know exactly what am I supposed to do for whom? And that is strategy. So in 2023, following announcing our imperatives, we talked about our strategy. And those of you, I know there are a lot of communicators watching this and you're like, 31-minute video, are you kidding me? But here is the difference, is that it's not just one person talking, it's several leaders of businesses in short sections with music underneath, with some graphics to help understand the business. And people reserved the time to really go deep. And if you're a podcast fan, maybe you prefer the hour-long podcast to the 20-minute podcast, which used to be popular 3-4 years ago. I think it's the same with a kind of topic that you have to get meaty about. So we launched this 31-minute video so that we could tell people what they're supposed to do for whom. And throughout the year, then, we're checking our internal news against the imperatives and against our strategic priorities so that we have every opportunity to repeat and reinforce. What happened then? And how did we use our Populo tool to understand what people were looking at? The imperatives, which were launched with a video from the CEO, 2,657 views. Now, on average, our videos get 1,000 views. Earlier, I told you we're 16,000. Should we be happy with 2,600? Maybe not so much, but it is more than twice the average video view. Strategy, 2,113 views. Again, great viewing rates compared to the average, and a 31-minute video. So that we were pretty happy with. And we had more than 55% open rates on our average emails. But when we sent out an email to our people leader population, which was, this is only strategy, this is what you need to know, this is what you need to do about our strategy, there we had a 72% open rate. So we were pretty happy with those figures, though in a classic communications conundrum, we know that just because we've communicated doesn't mean that our job is done, doesn't mean that people have received. How do you find out if people have received? Well, Cytiva and all of our sister companies do an annual engagement survey where people answer a battery of about 50 questions about the business, about how they feel, about what they think about working for our company. One of the questions that helped us understand whether this had hit home or reached anyone was this one: I can see a clear link between my work and the strategy and objectives of my operating company. 72% were positive to this question. So a strong result, admittedly, a drop from the year 2021. So we understood that, recall that we were transitioning in the year 2022, lots of change. And our employees had a lot of questions about, what's my role? If I understand the strategy for my role in the year 2021, how is it going to change in 2023 when we become that new Cytiva? So we listened to this feedback thanks to a network of change ambassadors, 180 people around the organization, embedded in different areas of business, just listening, coming back and saying, this is a recurring question. Let's see how we can answer it. So among the things that we heard, what does it mean for me? Will our strategy change when we became one company? So, still living in this world of uncertainty. So people wanted to know if the strategy that we were pushing at them and repeating to them was only temporary. Should they get behind it now, or should they just wait and see? So here's what we did. We went to people leaders and we asked them to make it personal. Not everything could come from the top. So we asked people leaders to adapt the strategy and help make it personal for teams. And we set a link between the company strategy and people's personal objectives. And that is a system known as P4G at Cytiva and at our sister company, Paul Life Sciences. So we sent out very clear information, and you'll see that in our lead right there, we say the strategy and the personal goals fit together, but you don't have to do it alone. Have that conversation. And so we outfitted our people leaders with a toolkit to explain our strategy. We didn't just send this email, that was part of a package of communication. We gathered them on a phone call. We brought in our strategy experts, had a conversation with them, and then asked them to pass it on. So what we then saw was this line of sight. Is the CEO started with those imperatives. Then we had the strategy coming from executive leaders. Then we passed it to the people leaders. And then eventually what we wanted to do was hear straight from employees. So by joining the dots and using our global channels, and then changing our approach if we needed to, perhaps without that feedback from all of those change ambassadors around the organization, we'd have thought we were done after sending out the communication from leaders, but not at all. So then we started sharing employee stories about how they connect with the strategy, how they connect with the transition. And I'm going to show you in a minute how that turned out. But first, I just want to rest on a moment and say, here is the advice. Here's the takeaway that we learned at Cytiva, and hopefully it can help you in your strategy communications. Listen to that data. Listen to the employees. Is sometimes just seeing it doesn't mean that your job is done. Sometimes the message that comes from the top is only halfway done because it hasn't yet been made personal. And how should the CEO know what somebody in a lab needs to do for a certain part of the project or for a certain part of the strategy? So this chain of communication is incredibly important and cannot be broken. And you have to empower your people leaders with a toolkit, with information, with something that is happening live on that phone call. And you have to also accept that there's a certain part that you cannot control, which is difficult for a person like myself. I much prefer to be entirely in control of that communications chain, but you can't. You have to be able to let go of it and trust that employees are going to then know where to get the information that matters, and that people leaders are going to follow up on those conversations that help people make the strategy personal. So eventually our employees have started to learn to share their voices. And what happens when they share their voices, then we have this 44-second video that I'd like to share with you now.
We are stronger together.
We are inclusive.
We are diverse.
We are unique.
We are sustainable.
We are listening to our customers.
We are guardians of our future company.
We are building the company we want to work for.
We are up for the challenge.
We are advancing and accelerating therapeutics.
We are ready.
We are Cytiva.
That's what Cytiva learned, and that's how we changed based on the data that we got by using our Populo tool. And now I hope that maybe you have some questions or observations for me.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dodie. That was so insightful. The numbers that stand out for me really are those 2,600 video views to a 72% positivity response rate in that engagement survey. That's an incredible swing. What's the top thing that you think drove that?
I think it was those conversations. I think it was the part of the communications chain that we can't really control, oddly. We provided people leaders the material and then left it to them. And there's no way to really measure that in the moment, but it appears that that is what happened. And then I think we gave the stage to the topic, right? So we have to be disciplined about when that strategy email goes out, that is the topic. And people do want to call and go, oh, can you just squeeze in this? Can you add that? This is really important. You need to add it. No, we don't. this is going to be a one topic newsletter. So that was important to us, is really give the topic the stage.
You obviously did a great job though, linking your comms programs to Cytiva's strategic imperatives. Was it hard to get buy-in from C-level?
Absolutely not. Our C-level expects it. Our leaders love, for example, using video. They have done so even before the pandemic. And they know that the comms team is going to come to them and insist on a microphone and insist on good lighting, and they've also learned that I think the audience engages better when there's a bit of quality to material. So our leaders are very much pro communications, thank goodness. But also the leaders are measured on engagement. So that survey that I mentioned that's done once a year, there are about 10 to 12 questions that have to do with communication. Has your leader communicated with you? So they know the value of comms partnership, and then that drives commitment. So I think it is one of those virtuous circles, right? So we're clear about strategy, we're clear about how we deliver it, we're clear about how we measure it, and everybody gets in on it.
Yeah, that partnership part is so powerful, isn't it, when it comes together? It really is.
Yeah.
And on the same topic, from a comms perspective, focusing on strategic imperatives makes so much sense, but a lot of the comms teams that we work with, even in large companies, are quite small, and they struggle to keep up with demands. So how do you say no to the other good things happening in the company?
This is a perennial problem. And, I'm going to try to be careful about how to say this. We actually try not to say no. We try to find a way to say yes. And sometimes it's no, not right now. Or sometimes it's yes, that sounds interesting for a different channel. Sometimes we would suggest, okay, let's do that after strat season. You can share that personally in your team. Maybe that's not for the global audience, but for a targeted audience. Or if somebody's going to insist that their topic is really, really, really important, then great. Tell us how we should link that to the global strategy, and then you're in. And we also have an interesting illustration at Cytiva. We call it the rhythm of the business. And it's one of those wheels that we show that says, okay, in January, the company is focused on this. And you go through the years and it's just very dense. And so you can go to somebody and go, where do you think on this wheel there is room in the audience mind space for something coming out of left field? And that usually makes them pause and think.
Yeah, it's managing that. We can't make the noise go away, but we can certainly control some of it. Yeah.
Oh, so true.
Yeah.
So true.
And then in terms of the information cascading, that's obviously a vital part of the process. Can you go into a little more detail on what that looks like? Do you do anything like out of the ordinary to help empower and motivate those managers that seem to be such a key part of it?
I would say it's pretty ordinary. It's the classic, bring them together on a quarterly phone call, provide updates on a Teams group that is only for people leaders. We have a section on our intranet that is accessible only to people leaders, where they have resources and information. And, I know sometimes we haven't had a contest or anything like that. I think it's pretty standard operating procedure. But what is extraordinary is the enthusiasm of our senior leaders and that commitment to communications that positively affects the overall people leader community. That I think is helpful.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, to be honest. And can I ask, in terms of analytics, how do you report on specific communications or engagement metrics for each of your imperatives? Well, what resonates best with the senior exec team?
Well, what resonates best is anecdotes. So when somebody would, for example, if we're going to send a CEO letter, the fact that somebody would reply to that, and some people do, and then the CEO will see that response. That I think makes the most impact. But we measure and we show the executive leadership team our open rates and our view rates and the kind of standard measuring. I wish, and maybe there's somebody who's going to speak at Engage who will talk about a new way to measure the impact and the value of communications. I'd love to learn that. But there is just the expectation that people are seeing and sharing And we can only see that right now through the views and the open rates.
Just one final question before we wrap up, Dodie. You know, going through a merger can be tough on employees because everybody reacts quite differently to change. Did you find that you needed to use a different strategy for different geos or different teams?
Well, and the different geographies can certainly take a different tack if that's right for them. And this network of 180 change ambassadors helped us, it helped us help those people do that. Centrally, we do it the way central communications does. But then when it goes out to the geographies or to the different populations, for example, we have a huge population that is non-wired. So we absolutely have to take a different tack with that population, but we let that happen decentralized. And yes, mergers are hard and very stressful. And yeah, it is hard.
All that good stuff. So unfortunately,
for the good of our customers, though. Sorry, I had to squeeze that in there, Neem.
Well done. So unfortunately, we've come up on time, so we do need to wrap things up. I'd like to say a massive thank you to you, Dodie, for sharing your story with us today. It really was insightful and hugely valuable. And a big thank you to you all for joining, and hopefully we'll see you on the next session. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.